Welcome to Morning Infusion with Dr. V. Have you ever told or ever wondered if you were told that you were never going to amount to anything, how you would handle that? Well, my name is Dr. Viola Pierce. I'm the owner and the CEO of VP Nursing and the Nurse Nurturer and the facilitators of Secret Suppers Worldwide with Dr. V, where our goal is to equip healthcare professionals to be spiritually and physically fit, financially stable, able to lead with integrity, to decrease error at the bedside and in leadership, and to lead a full empowered life. Our goal is to come to you each Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 7:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time to give you the fuel to crush your goals, to show up exceptional on a daily basis. You can follow us on Twitter at the Nurse Nurturer, Instagram at VP Nursing, and if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. You can also visit us at vpnursing.com. So today we have a special guest with us, Nikitas Gupta. She's one of my good friends and one of the healthcare heroes. You were honored. Tell us about that. Tell us a little bit about that before we
Oh,
start.
so yeah, my sister actually nominated me. I had no clue, and I woke up to like tons of messages on Facebook and text messages. I'm like, I have not been on the news. Like, what are y'all talking about? And then I read it, and I was like, oh, I remember her asking me questions. She just kept asking me random questions. And I'm like, why are you asking me these questions? She was like, oh, well, one of the doctors I work with works in the ER. And I'm like, how does a GI doctor works in the ER? So I was like, that doesn't make sense. I was like, whatever. But I'm very grateful and thankful that she thought of me and nominated me for that. So
Yes, yes, I love it. So Nikisha has been a registered nurse for 11 years. Her nursing career began in 2009 when she graduated from Vance Granville Community College with her ADN. The bulk of her career has been in the emergency department where we met, of course. She started out in a small rural hospital. A year later, she began to work at a larger facility where she started out as a staff nurse and later became the team leader and the charge nurse. After working there for almost 5 years, she decided it was time for a change and began working at a tertiary care facility in 2014 and at a freestanding ER in Garner. In 2016, she graduated from Winston-Salem State University with her BSN. Last year, she started working with the critical care transplant team. Now she is currently obtaining her master's degree in family nurse practitioner at Frontier Nursing University with an expected graduation date of 2022. You better get it, girl. I love it. I love it. I love it. So now tell us about yourself. How and why did you become a nurse?
So first of all, I had no desire to be a nurse, never crossed my mind. I wanted to be in somebody's office behind a desk and some heels being cute.
Wait a minute. I need to tell them about it. So she called me or texted me about today, and I was we were talking about it, and she was like, "Well, what should I wear?" And I was like, "Well, you're gonna be on camera, so I mean, not glamour shots, but And she, because I remember way back when the ER, and we were talking about coming to work one day at dressed
Yeah.
and I was like, so all you have to do just wear some sweatpants. And she was like, I don't own any sweatpants. I was like, who does not own sweatpants? Really? Anyway, go ahead. Go ahead.
I own sweatpants now.
Hallelujah.
So I've always worked in retail, and I had quit up to move to New York. It was not for me, not this country girl. So I came back home and I could not get a job. So I was like, well, if I take the CNA class, then I know I can get a job. And I remember my mom was like, you in a CNA class, not you, Miss Prissy, you are not going to make it. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to prove her wrong. And I made it. So I initially started working in a retirement home, and then I started working in the hospital. And from there, I just progressed on from different areas within the hospital, and was like, well, maybe I could do this. And then during that time, my grandmother got sick, and I noticed the care that she was receiving from the nurses, and I was like, oh my God, they are really caring. I believe I can do this. I think I'm going to try to do this. And so I began taking my prerequisites and got in nursing school, and I was like, I don't think I can do this. And it's a hard thing to accomplish. But it's very, very rewarding. I know a lot of people think differently, but it's all in how you take it and how you go with it. So much diversity and advancement within being a nurse. So I'm very grateful that I'm here today.
Sweet, sweet. So tell us a little about your childhood because you shared with me, and one of the things that I'm so in awe of is the fact that I really didn't know the story about what you were told whenever you were a child, about not that you weren't going to make it.
Yeah. So my mother had me when she was 14. And so my grandmother was forced, I guess I should say, to raise me. And my grandmother had a sixth grade education, but she done the best that she could for me. She would always still in my head that education is important, although she didn't, know what to do. She couldn't be a resource for me. And I knew that I had to accomplish that for her. But it was also difficult because, growing up, we lived in the country. I didn't have everything that everybody else had. So I was very limited. So it was like, during that point in my life, I'm like, oh my God, why am I going through this? Why me? Why me? Why me? Why me? But I knew that I had to prove people wrong in my family because they felt as if I was not going to be successful. And I was the first one to graduate from high school, the first one to graduate from college, and I will be the first one to obtain my master's degree as well. So I look back at everything, and when you're going through it, you don't like what you're going through, but when you look back, God has placed me in different areas in my life. Like one of my devotions this morning was, there's a time and place, there's a season for you. Sometimes when you're in that season, you don't recognize it, but I'm learning to be thankful at the moment, but it's very difficult. I haven't always been there, but I look back and I would say I'm grateful that I went through, because now I know how to survive. And not only that, I grew up in a home with no bathroom, no running water, none of that. And,
Wow.
in my era, you really don't see that because all of that should have been gone by that time. But my grandmother raised me, so that's what I was faced with. And of course, during the time, you don't like it. But, I look back and I'm like, my grandma done the best she could. And I know she's proud of me. And that was my goal. And as well as to teach my daughter as well. So.
And I think, when we talk about resilience, I think that people, they talk about it and they say, well, those are the things that, create a lack of resilience. But
Right.
I think that when you understand that you can get past that, you one step at a time, one foot in front of the other one, when you get to your master's degree, you're like, well, I am resilient. And so those things that happen, you're able to overcome those things simply because you've done that in your earlier life. Like people are like tore out their frame about this pandemic. And I was like, well, as long as I have something to eat on my table, I'm good. Okay. As long as I got a roof over my head, I'm good. We just have to get through it, right? Now, what are some of the things that you will do differently as a result of the things that you experienced during your childhood?
If you had to ask me that during my childhood and like immediately after I became an adult, I would have said everything. I would change everything. However, again, being thankful for where I am, it allows me to see where I need it to be. A lot of times you don't know how you're going to survive something, but I can tell you that my grandma taught me, and what she taught me, it allowed me to grow and be better. So, growing up, of course, I didn't like the way we live. I never had friends over or anything like that. And during that time, I would change that. But now I'm like, okay, I learned a lesson from that. If I ever had to go back to that era, I know how to survive. I pray I don't. However, if I had to go back, I know what to do instead of, going through depression or anxiety about how am I going to survive through this. And so I've learned to be grateful for my past. I teach my daughter that your past is your foundation for your future.
That's right.
A lot of times our past is not always great. However, it does set you up for your future, and you have to take it and go with it. So.
That's right. That's right. I love that. I love that. It is the foundation for your future, and understanding that once you get that foundation into place, I think some people look back at their past and they're like, well, they're upset about their past. But I tell people all the time that whenever you're driving, you have this window in front of you, right?
Right.
And you have those small window on the side and that small window. And if you keep looking in the back, if you keep looking back there, then you're going to crash, right? You want to keep moving forward in what you're doing, but don't forget the lessons that you learned from your past, right?
Right.
Now,
Right.
tell me about being a mother and a nurse and how that journey in nursing has impacted motherhood.
So when I finished nursing school, my daughter was probably about 8, 9, or 10, somewhere around that age. And it was very difficult because I didn't feel like she needed to sacrifice her childhood, because I decided later on in life that I needed to get my career together. So it was a struggle. I balanced her playing sports and working weekend options so that I can have the luxury of taking her to and from school. She didn't go to school in our district. So I was capable of getting off work in time, taking her to school, picking her up, taking her to practice before I went to work, and being able to be at her game. So during nursing school, I look back and I don't know how I made it, because now I'm in grad school and she's 21 and I'm like, how did I do it when she was 8? And now I don't have that responsibility and I can barely even keep up with what's going on. So, I mean, I think when you don't have a choice, you find a way to do it. And that's what because I was determined that I was going to finish. I mean, I had a schedule where I would go to school, I come home, I nap, I pick her up, we go to practice, come home and eat, I put her to bed, and then I'm up all night studying. Now, she's grown, so I don't have to do anything, but it's like, I kind of miss those days. But then I'm like, I don't even know how I would survive. Like, especially with the pandemic. Like, my niece was over here the other day, had to get online for school, and I'm like, oh, this is not for me. I'm glad I don't have any little kids, because I can't do this homeschooling in my school, and I need to sleep, and I got to go to work, and I'm like, God knew what he was doing. He knows.
It's the why, though. The why is what keeps you going. It's the why. It definitely surely is.
Yeah.
Now, what are some things that you failed at miserably, but you learned a big lesson from the journey?
And this thing still sticks with me today. Taking my CEN, that exam is very, very hard. And I missed it by 3 questions. And I have worked alongside people who passed it. And I'm like, well, I know if they passed it, I can pass it. Like, ain't no question, because, you just work beside some people and you just like, oh my God, I can't believe that thought process is even like that. But when I didn't pass, I was so devastated. And I just decided I was not going to take it again. I'm like, screw it, I can't pass the test. But I kick myself in the behind every day, because I'm like, that was a personal satisfaction that I wanted to accomplish. And I let the fear of me failing fall into me not going back to retake the exam. And now, of course, with me in school, I have no time to study to retake it. And I look at it all the time. I get these daily emails about practice questions. I'm like, I really want to take this test, but however, I can't right now. And I kick myself in the behind all the time about it, because I know it was something I can do, but I just allowed the fear of me failing just to take over everything and allow me to be like, I'm not doing that again. And of course, the embarrassment, because, you work with people, everybody know you taking it, and they're like, oh, did you pass? Did you pass? Oh, I'm sorry. And I'm like, I don't need your sympathy.
Well, they want to make themselves feel better. Leave them alone.
And the thing is that I work with a lot of people who felt like, oh, well, I know Keisha, she's going to pass it. But that was not the case. And I was like, you know what? I'm not retaking this test. And I didn't.
So one of the things, I failed it the first time I took it too. It was a hot mess. I was like, I cannot. But my dad had passed away. So we took the CEN review course that was on Saturday and Sunday. Well, on that Wednesday, my father passed away, and when he passed away, I was struggling, emotionally with that, and then knowing that I had to take it, right after then. It was probably one of the biggest struggles in my life. But I'm gonna tell you, that thing right there, you're right. It is a beast. It is a beast. Now, who is someone that has been very influential in your life? Like, what are some of the things that they have done that has influenced your journey as a nurse?
Oh, of course, you. I'll tell you this
Oh,
time. And Mary, because you know how it is when you work with people and you see them progressing. Because I remember when you started your BSN, and I was like, okay, well, I can do this. And I know you probably got tired of me texting you all the time
no.
with stuff. And then you was like, kept going, and then you was like, okay, I'm going back for my master's. And then next thing I'm like, this chick done got her doctorate degree. Come on now, I can do this. And then of course Mary, and I text her all the time too. And it's very, very encouraging and inspirational to me, especially when you know someone. I mean, it's different when you meet people and you see their journey, or they already accomplished their journey. But when you work alongside people and know some of their personal lives and the struggles that they've been through and seeing that they accomplish, it's like, well, I can do this too. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna be one day. I don't know about the doctorate. We will discuss
I
that
didn't either. I
later,
didn't either.
but I will be a nurse practitioner in 2022. So, and then I reevaluate the doctorate later. So, but that's my goal. And I'm just very thankful that you all are a part of my life and showed me the way, and still is a resource for me, because there are a lot of things I don't know. School is, you have the professors there, but you still have your teacher yourself. So there are some things that are questionable and that I don't want to make the wrong mistakes. So I'm just thankful that you both are there and inspiring me to move forward with my career.
Well, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yeah.
One of the things that Dr. Kwanzaa Mori and I talk about is representation, and the fact that you have to see someone who, been where you've been, right? And then, is elevated, able to elevate the game. So that is super important for sure, for sure. Because she is one of the people that she is the reason why I probably have one of the reasons why I have my doctorate today. Now, what are the biggest surprises about nursing that differs from the fairy tale that we tell ourselves?
We tell ourselves, or what people think?
What people think, maybe.
So I would have to say that we make a lot of money.
Fairy tale.
Right. We have a great salary. However, I think for all the things that we do, I mean, we could be compensated a little bit more. And all we do is push medicines. That is truly a favorite. All you do is push medicine all day long. Like, you don't understand the mechanism behind that, because a lot of times, you got to know what's going on with your patients. You got to know certain lab values. You got to make sure that this patient isn't allergic to medicine. It's a lot behind it that than just going in the room and say, oh, I'm gonna get this medicine because the doctor ordered it. So one of my friends' husband always say, you don't do nothing all day long. And when you do, all you do is push meds. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Come step in my shoes one day.
You got to love people.
Yeah. So they think it's an easy job because they don't know the behind the scenes of it. It just looks like, oh, I just see a nurse walking around in the ER. She don't do anything, or everybody at the desk on the computer or whatever. And they think that we're just not busy and we're not paying attention to them or honoring what they want. And that's definitely not the case. And I remember when I was at Nash, one of the girls I know floated down to the ER, an old ED, and she was like, I have not ever seen anything like this. She said, I will take back everything I've said about it because we don't understand what you go through. You know what I'm saying? Because they're on the floor and they want to know why we're calling to give reports and why we want the patient to go in there, and they didn't know they was getting, it's more to it than that. And she was like, I really respect you, ER nurse. And I'm like, yeah, because at any given moment, we don't know what we're getting. And we still have to manage what we have along with what's coming in the ER. So yeah, that myth of all we do is push medicine is not true.
So not true. So
and
not
definitely
true.
The money.
That is so that is, you couldn't have said it better. Now, what are some of the things that you do to continue to learn within the role of nursing and outside of the role of nursing?
Well, we have to have our continuing education classes anyway, but I still I read a lot. Especially now that I have to transition from a RN to a provider. Like, that's a huge
leap.
Yes. And one of the reasons I chose the job that I'm with now is because of the autonomy, because I'm it. Like, I make the decision in the back of the truck. If I have to hang a presser or if I got to intubate the patient, it's all on me. I have to make the decision. I don't have to call a doctor and have protocols I have to go by, but however, I have to know what to do in that moment. So just basically always learning, always reading, just to know, because evidence-based changes every day.
That's right.
So you got to know what's going on with the patient. You just can't go by what, oh, well, I remember what I did 10 years ago. No, you can't. You have to stay up on education. And nursing is truly a life learned education. You will be educated until you leave the profession. Because I was, good Lord, because you have to go to teen education every year. You have to have a certain amount of CEUs to maintain your license, and everything else. And not to mention, if you on the professional ladder, like, you have to have more things. So you have to be able to keep up with technology and medicine just to make sure that you're doing the right thing for your patients. So yeah.
Well, I think that you going into the critical care nursing transport is key. I never really thought of it like that you have, that amount of autonomy, and you have protocols, but you have to remember those protocols. And people, sometimes that's not understood. It's not understood that when you're in the moment, I can't go back and look at my paper and say, what is on that paper? No, I got to be able to remember that. I got to be able to react in the moment.
And the thing is, like, we always call before we go anyway, just to play out the scenario. Like, so you were able to discuss with your partner, okay, if this goes wrong, then this is what we're going to do. Because I can tell you that what report you get on the phone is not what you get. But, you have to remain cool and do what you're supposed to do in just, the safety of the patient. So that's the good thing about it. Sometimes we have time to do things like that if we have to go far. But then sometimes it's like, what in the world? Like,
that's for sure. Now, what is one thing that you wish you would have known at the beginning of your nursing career?
I guess I would say, that's a good question. Beginning of my nursing career. I knew that there was a lot of advancement, but I didn't know how quickly it could go. And, when I first became a nurse, I had no desire to go any further. I was like, I'm not going back to get my bachelor's. I don't want to be a manager. I don't want to be a supervisor. But not realizing that obtaining that degree opened doors for other jobs as well. And then so on and so forth. So it's like, had I known that, I probably would have went ahead and transitioned right into my bachelor's degree and then move forward. Because now I work alongside girls who, they probably not even 30 yet, and then they're going to get their master's. I'm like, well, that's the smart thing to do, But, life comes, you learn from your mistakes, and you just move forward and take it as a lesson, like we said before. But I really wished I had done it a long time ago, but I can't tell you that I would be where I am today.
One of the things that when you are a good clinician, what happens is you're elevated to, charge nurse or the leadership, fairly quickly. And that's one thing that I didn't anticipate when I first became a nurse, was that was going to happen. And I know that you were an excellent clinician, and I knew that you would be charge nurse before long. So I don't know why you didn't know that, but I knew that.
Because I didn't have any desire.
Oh, gotcha.
It was so funny because, I've been charged in multiple places, and I'm like, do they really know what they're getting? So every time I would go for my evaluation, I'd be like, well, I know I ain't going to raise this year. But then when I go in, every time I would have my evaluation, they'd be like, the staff loves you. They think you're the best. You're a great resource. And I'm like, well, I know sometimes I can come off a little harsh. I don't sugarcoat anything, you know what I'm saying? But I'm not a person that's going to baby you, but I don't make you, I'm not the one that's going to eat my young either. So I was like, well, that's great to know. And, even to this day, I have people, I'm not even in the ER anymore, and I have text messages all the time or calling me, hey, what do I do? Well, how can I do this? And I'm like, they really do respect me and think that I'm a great resource. I'm very, very happy.
Yes, you are an excellent resource for sure. Now, what advice would you give to the novice nurse?
I would say, just basically just make sure that you ask questions and learn. Don't think that because you've seen something once that you don't need to see it again. Like, you need to go in a room and see stuff all the time. And don't allow anyone to make you think that you can't do it. I'm not saying that this is easy, but it is definitely a great journey, and it can be overwhelming at times and challenging, but you can do it. And also, your nursing license were very, very hard to get, but they are very, very easy to lose.
That's right.
Very, very easy to lose. I mean, we all make mistakes, and that's one of the things you have to realize is that we are human. I mean, everybody makes mistakes every day, but that doesn't mean that you have to continue to make a mistake. If you make a mistake, you need to learn from that mistake, not to continue to make the mistake, because you have someone's lives in your hands. So you have to make sure that you know what you're doing, and don't be afraid to say, I don't know what. I'm good for saying, I don't know what. I'm gonna have to use the I don't know what the heck that is. That's not the word I use. But I'm like, I don't know what that is. I'm just gonna be honest. And I do that even in when I was in charge nurse. Like, I don't know. Let me look it up and let me get back with you, because I'm not the type of person that's just going to sit there and pretend I know something just to appease you only because I'm in this leadership role. No, that's not my job. My job is to make sure that I learn to teach you so that you won't do a mistake as well. So just make sure you ask questions. I don't care if there's 100 people looking at you and they feel like you should know it. Say, I don't know it. Will someone please teach me the right way, or whatever it is? They'll get over their little giggles and laughs, whatever. If you don't know something. But the thing about it, one lesson you learn from that is that you didn't make a mistake that could have potentially killed someone.
That's right.
You don't want to have that over your head. So just ask questions. I don't care who it is. And if they look at you and be like, you didn't know that? I'm like, no, I didn't know that. I didn't learn that. I should know it, but I don't know it. You know what I'm saying? Like, we have to realize that everybody learns at a different level.
That's right.
There are some things that we don't learn, some things that we forget, and some things we just don't think about. You know what I'm saying? Because you're in the midst of the moment. So you may not even like, oh, well, I should have thought about it. I'm sorry, I didn't think about that. Well, I didn't see it that way. I'm big on that. I don't look at a lot of things, and not just with nursing, but with life. I don't look at a lot of things in a certain way until someone says, I'm like, oh, well, I didn't look at it that way. So don't think that you're dumb just because you don't know. You just need to ask so that you can learn from it.
Two caveats. What other people think of us is none of our business. Number one. Okay, that's number one. Right. Number two, when you go into, I remember I said something on Facebook, and I had someone who came back. He was, it was a word, and I was like, what does that word mean? What does that even mean? And he was like, don't tell me that you were such and such and you don't know what this word means. I said, let me tell you the difference between me. I said, and most people. I said, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna ask you the question. I said, because I'm in a career where, like you said, I mean, we can kill people. We gotta ask questions. We gotta make sure that we're doing what we need to do in order to be able to take care of the patient efficiently and effectively.
And I think that's the biggest downfall in nursing.
Yes.
That, we are looked upon as, oh, they know everything, but reality is we don't learn everything in nursing school. You learn the basics. And so I think that a lot of times people don't want to ask questions because they don't want to feel dumb. Well, I will feel dumb all I want to. Like, no, what is that? What the heck is that? I don't know. Oh, okay. Well, that makes sense. And then if I don't believe them, of course I go to
and look it up. I love it. I love it. Well, it has been such a pleasure to have you here today. Thank you are one of my all-time loves, my friend. Thank you for joining me on this platform. My name is Dr. Viola Pierce. I'm the owner and the CEO of VP Nursing and the Nurse Nurturer and the facilitators of Secret Suppers Worldwide with Dr. V. Our goal is to equip healthcare professionals to be spiritually and physically fit, financially stable, able to lead with integrity, to decrease error at the bedside, and in leadership to lead a full empowered life. Our goal is to come to you each Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 7:30 Eastern Standard Time to give you the fuel to crush your goals and to show up exceptional on a daily basis. You can follow us on Twitter, The Nurse Nurturer, Instagram at VP Nursing. And if you are watching on YouTube, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. You can also visit our website at vpnursing.com.